I'm starting this live streaming of amateur radio on International Space Station. The the space station will be arriving only about 9:50 a.m. Before that, I'll show the setup what I'm going to use. First of all, live streaming is using my laptop and OBS Studio, Open Broadcasting System, that is OBS Studio software installed in my radio. That has been installed already, and the video capture device is the webcam on the built-in webcam of the laptop, and I'm not using a separate webcam because I want to try it out how this one works. And the audio also is being captured by the built-in mic of the laptop. I'm not using a separate mic just to test out how this works. This is the first time I am trying this out. The setup here is I had planned to use a Moxon Yagi, which I usually use for my LEO satellite operations. But then as it started raining intermittently, I am not planning to use it. When I use the Moxon Yagi, recently I have started rotating it twice or three times during each pass so that it will track the satellite pass in azimuth. I am not able to track in elevation because it's a fixed elevation Yagi. I cannot change the elevation, and I do not have an antenna rotator. What I usually do is I'll just keep it at a fixed position, and then when the signals are not coming well, I'll just go outside into the terrace and rotate the antenna manually in the direction of the pass. But now, as it is raining intermittently, I feel that the terrace might be slippery and I don't want to try it. Usually I do this only during summer or when there is no rain at all, so that there is very little chance of slipping on the terrace. Now, I'll show what I am going to do with my tracking system. I'll use my mobile phone. My radio is analog and it does not have any automatic Doppler tracking system. What I do is I display the Argentinian Amsat web page, that is satellite pass page, on the mobile phone. This is the display of Argentinian Amsat website pass page on the mobile phone. You can see that there is a compass space over there, and azimuth tracking is there, and elevation also will be shown. This time I am using CP22E antenna instead of the Moxon Yagi. That's because of concerns about rain. CP22 antenna is an omnidirectional antenna. It is not an ideal antenna for satellite reception, but I have been able to receive quite a few satellite signals with the CP22E antenna. Earlier it was at a height of about 6 meters on my first floor terrace. But again, in the rainy season, I had to lower it because of lightning risk. Now it is on 3-meter pole. That is a CPVC pole. Earlier it was a pole made of GI with earthing and all. But now I have changed it to a CPVC pole. That is a 1-inch diameter CPVC pipe kept vertically. And there are a lot of limitations for that antenna. It is very near my sloping roof, so that major part of the signals from the satellites could be cut off. But I presume that as this is a western pass, at least part of the signals will come through. Then CP22E antenna needs no antenna rotator as it is omnidirectional. Only problem is it is a VHF only antenna. And for VHF only antenna, reception from LEO satellite, that is amateur radio on International Space Station, is on UHF, 437.800 megahertz. The VHF antenna will work on UHF also as third harmonic. That is how I receive UHF from the International Space Station on my CP22E VHF antenna. Actually, uh, I am supposed to use separate VHF and UHF antennas, antenna rotator, cross Yagi and all. All those things I do not have. Whatever limited setup I am having, I am trying to use. Currently, I have set uplink frequency as 145.990 and downlink frequency as 437.810. That is to account for the Doppler shift. That is, normally there is a Doppler shift for a satellite signal. When the satellite is rising above the horizon, it is coming towards you. And when it is coming towards you, the received signal will be above the nominal frequency. That is why this has been set at 10 kilohertz above the nominal frequency. And when the satellite rises, as it rises and reaches the top, that is the position of closest approach, then it will be almost nominal frequency, that is 437.800 megahertz. In between, there is another step, 437.805 megahertz also, that will be halfway up. And when the satellite starts setting down, that is beyond the time of closest approach, then the frequency goes down. Instead of 437.800, it will go to 437.795 and later to 437.790 also. This is the Doppler shift tracking on downlink. On uplink also, you need Doppler tracking, but the shift is lesser by about 5 kc up and down. Most of the time, I may not use that because in my limited setup, when I use CP22E antenna, I am likely to get through the repeater only at the time of closest approach. So I do not use Doppler shift tracking on uplink because that is pointless. But if you are having a good antenna with rotator and everything, then certainly you can use Doppler tracking on uplink also, because at low elevation, if you have to get through, the signal should be properly Doppler tracked. Especially if you want to work DX at low elevation, then Doppler tracking on uplink also will be required. Another advantage for space station is that the signals are much stronger than most of the other CubeSats. Usual CubeSats have only a few hundred milliwatts of power, while space station output is 5 watts, that is 5000 milliwatts. That is why most of the beginners find it easy to track the space station rather than other satellites. One problem which I found with my system, that is the webcam system, is that if I keep the squelch fully open, even though the noise is very heavy for my ears, somehow the webcam does not pick up the signals well. It picks up some type of noise which is totally different from what you hear in the actual radio. All of you who have used VHF or UHF radios know that open squelch produces a hissing noise. The coming pass at 9:50 a.m. is about 70 degrees maximum elevation. That means the space station is going to pass almost overhead. So when it's an overhead pass, I do expect the squelch to be opened spontaneously by the radio. And sometimes I have seen about 6 to 7 segments on the display also while International Space Station is passing by. Usually there may be only 2 to 3 segments on the signal meter, but for an overhead pass, lucky, you might have maybe 6, 7 segments also occasionally, and the audio will come loud and clear. I have to set the tone. That is, uplink requires a 67 hertz tone for access. If you just transmit like that on 145.990, International Space Station will not accept that. An audio tone of 67 hertz has to be given along with the signal. That is VHF signal. So I have to set it. For that, in my radio, I press the menu button, and when the menu button is pressed, R tone will be displayed. R tone is displayed, and then I have to press the enter button. and R tone, which tone is selected will be shown. Here it is shown as 67 Hertz. There are other satellites with different tones. For example, LAPAN A2 satellite has 88.5 Hertz. It's not kilohertz. It's an audio tone on the uplink. And for each satellite, there is a different tone. Some satellites, like TAVL series, which are there, which are now extinct, do not have a tone, and SO121 also does not have a tone. Another example is the Saudi Sat or SO50 satellite, which needs two tones. One tone for activation of the timer. That is 74.4 Hertz tone has to be given for activation of the timer. Once the timer is activated, then regular access is with another tone, that is 67 Hertz. So for operating SO50 or Saudi Sat, you need two tones. One is initial activation with carrier for about 2 to 4 seconds, giving a tone of 74.4 Hertz, while for routine operations, once the timer is activated, it goes on for 10 minutes. Timer will be there for 10 minutes. And if that during 10 minutes, if there's QSO is going on, you need not activate again. So it all depends on whether somebody has activated in your region. In the Argentinian Amsat website, the compass space will show the direction of the satellite, and there is another horizontal bar which shows the elevation of the satellite. When the satellite is in range, the color of this display will change. That orange display of the frequencies will become white, and the compass needle will start moving according to the direction of the satellite path, and the elevation also will be changing. And you can see the elevation displayed above that also. That also will change. Azimuth, that is the direction of pass, also will change continuously. When a tone has been set in the radio, in the display, above the frequency, it will be shown as T. T will be indicated, showing that tone has been set for transmit. There is also another tone, RX tone, that is for receiving also it can be set. But you don't have to do it for satellite contacts, because downlink tone is not required. And if unwittingly you have set tone for the downlink, that will be shown in my radio as TSQL, that is tone squelch. The squelch is open only if that particular tone is received, that is TSQL. Display will also show the distance the satellite is from you. That is now it is showing AOS, that is acquisition of signal, the time when the satellite is going to rise above the horizon. AOS now is 1 minute 56 seconds. And the distance of the satellite also is shown. Currently, the distance of the satellite from this region is 3,100 kilometers. And altitude of the satellite is given as 427 kilometer. That is the altitude at which the satellite is revolving around the Earth. 427 kilometer, it means that it is a low Earth orbit. There are other satellites which have higher orbits. For example, IEO 117, that is a green cube, has an altitude of about 5,000 kilometers. That is a medium Earth orbit satellites. And then there is a geostationary satellite. The only geostationary amateur radio satellite around is the Qatar Oscar 100, launched a few years back. It is a geostationary satellite located about 36,000 kilometers above the Earth. The advantage the geostationary satellite is that you don't have to do any Doppler tracking or rotate the antenna. All you have to do is you have to have a dish, and uplink and downlink can be sent and received. Many of the radio amateurs in our region are also communicating using Qatar Oscar 100. It's almost like a repeater out there in the sky. But the setup is costlier. You need a transverter for uplink that is on 2.4 gigahertz, and you need a downlink reception for 10.4 gigahertz. It's a much higher band, satellite band. Now you can see that the ARISS is in range, and you can see the display has changed color, and you can see the needle will start moving. The needle of the compass will start moving gradually. I won't be able to show it always because I have to adjust Doppler in my radio also during this period. It's almost an acrobatics. Actually, if you have an advanced setup, you can have a computer tracking. That is a software known as Gpredict. There are other softwares also which can track. They can track the movement of the satellite and rotate the antenna accordingly, as well as track the Doppler. So you just have to listen and then contact the stations. There are a few stations in VLAN also having such capability, but I'm nowhere near that. I'm just using this very crude old method. And I'm also not using the outdoor approach because of technical reasons. I am not able to go out and operate. I'm just operating from within my shack. So the satellite is now at about 5-degree elevation. Usually I don't get signals at that level, so I'm not in a hurry also. Now the distance of the satellite is 1,800 kilometers. Earlier I was telling that it was at 3,000 odd kilometers. Now it is at 1,800 kilometers. It's much nearer. It has come to 1,700, elevation 7. Now if I open the squelch, I might hear somebody. Let me see. Now I have not started acquiring satellite signals. Usually for high elevation passes, I start getting signals only about 15 degrees or so. But yesterday morning there was a low elevation pass with the maximum only 10 degrees. I could get to Mike Zulu Tango at about 7 degrees of elevation. That's also partly because he's using a good setup. He was using an external antenna with manual rotation and a homebrew tripod for that. He had sent me the photograph of that. Now the uplink frequency displayed here is in the mobile phone is 145.986 and downlink is 437.809. So I don't have to change it now because I usually change. The minimum step in my radio is only 5 kilohertz, and when there's only 5 kilohertz range, I don't have to change every now and then. Only 2 or 3 times I have to change during the pass. Now the satellite is at 17-degree elevation. Distance is only 1,100 kilometers. Altitude is same because that's the altitude of the orbit. That changes very little. It is given as 425 kilometers. I would have expected some signals now. I don't know whether somebody is at. I will not call now because if I call now, it's very unlikely that I will reach the space station. In between, I am trying to open the squelch and see whether somebody is there. So far, nobody is there. Sometimes it also happens that there will be nobody on the path. You had V2 Amsat now. V2 Mike Zulu Tango, do you copy? V2 Juliet Oscar? What you heard just now is the beacon in CW, NA1SS of the space station. Obviously, I think V2 Mike Zulu Tango has not copied me. We'll try after some time. I hope you heard V2 Mike Zulu Tango because his signal opened the squelch. Now the uplink frequency displayed is 145.987 and downlink is 437.807. So I'll have to reduce one step in the radio. From 810, I have put it to 805. Now some signal is coming. I'll only try operating when the satellite is very near me, especially with this extremely limited setup of a CP22 antenna. Now there was about 6 segments display on the. So V2 Mike Zulu Tango has heard me, but due to inexperience with live streaming, what happened is that my audio, when it came down through the downlink of the space station, it was picked up by my full duplex radio, and it got a feedback into the input system of my webcam. Got a howling noise. Now the downlink frequency has come down to 793 and I have reduced it to that. You could hear V2 Mike Zulu Tango, or rather I could hear. I'm not sure whether you also heard. Anyway, I am stopping the live streaming now because I don't expect the signals to come through much again. Anyway, glad that at least I could hear V2 Mike Zulu Tango. Hope that you would also have heard at least partly because the system of live streaming is also not very perfect.